Ladies and gentlemen, internet, my name is Peridiam, and it is the off season and school is back in session. Actually, it's almost the summer, but regardless, they say you should try to learn one new thing every day, and if you're watching this video, odds are this is going to be that one thing. Let's get right to it. The winner's edit. The fabled, mythical, elusive winner's edit in Survivor. You ever heard of it? Maybe. Can you spot it? Maybe. Without spoilers? First, if you want to get right to the clues that I intend to outline in this video, go to the timestamp on your screen right now. I want to explain the concept of the winner's edit to contextualize everything that I'm talking about, but if you're not interested in hearing what the winner's edit is or why it may exist, skip ahead. Otherwise, what exactly is the winner's edit? The winner's edit is the edit the winning player of any season of Survivor receives. Survivor is a heavily edited TV show like any other, and even though it's not scripted or predetermined, it does still have to be told in a story-like fashion with an overarching narrative, more prominent players, secondary players, sometimes nearly invisible players. You have story beats such as blindsides or turning points in key relationships when people flip on alliances or betray an ally to advance their game. And of course, you have challenges and tribal councils and everything that happens with those. Altogether, all of this creates the season, caught on camera, and from there, the season is edited down in an editing suite to tell us, the audience, the most important parts, the most exciting parts, to make sense of the eventual outcome of each episode and the overall season at large. Because one player ultimately wins the season, it's important, right from the first episode and onward, that this player be shown in some way to the audience. We'll need to know who they are, who they're working with, what some of their thoughts are on certain events. We may get a glimpse into their strategy, their key relationships, with lots of heavy foreshadowing of events to come. Sometimes we will only get a few of these things, but in the end, it is the producer's job to service a coherent, hopefully enjoyable story that explains how this one person won the season. Whether they won because they held a dominant grip as the frontrunner, or because they went on an immunity streak after being an underdog, or because they were maybe somewhere in the middle of the pack, not too hot, not too cold, just right. Ultimately, whoever wins the season receives the winning edit. And to me, personally, it's about as simple as that. If someone appears to be the frontrunner and then doesn't win, like say, I don't know, maybe Rick Devens, I call that a decoy winner edit. And I made a video explaining that term if you want to check it out. Devens appeared to be the winner for a lot of the season, but in the end, he never had the winner's edit. He wasn't the winner, so to me, he couldn't have it. Only the winner has it by virtue of being the winner. Part of what makes a show like Survivor so interesting is this aspect. It's the idea that we're watching a whodunit mystery show with a hidden killer or winner in the mix. Devens was a leading suspect in Edge of Extinction season 38, but he wasn't the culprit. Because Survivor is edited to emphasize a story, as I described earlier, it's entirely possible to suss out the suspects from the culprits, the decoys from the winners. All stories have patterns, editing has its tricks, and after 40 or 20 or even just a couple of seasons, you may be able to find the clues. But what are the clues? There are several key tenets I believe a winner's edit will receive. Not all winning edits receive them. There are definitely exceptions to these rules, but by and large, once you know them, you will begin to notice them more and more. Think of this as like a checklist, and the more checks a player gets, the more likely they are of being the winner. For example, the first clue, I think a big one, is a winner quote in the premiere episode. That is to say, a confessional when the player is talking to the camera in private to the audience, and they mention something about winning the game, winning the million, something along those lines. They'll phrase it in their own way, but to me, having a winner's quote is a very good start, especially if it's in the premiere episode.
Fabio rides a white horse and does butter commercials and is kind of a cheeseball. It's whatever. Dude, I don't care what they call me. I'm gonna win for $1 million. So I guess my nickname's Fabio.
I'm good to go, survival-wise. People-wise, it'll be a little more challenging. But I've got the $1 million check written already. I mean, I'm the winner.
Jean Robert was very right. I will do whatever I need to do to win that $1 million. I'm here to win $1 million. It's $1 million. That's a lot of money.
The beginning of their journey shows them focused on winning the entire game, which you could say is a good light for the eventual winner. But the second clue, and I would argue that this is even more important than a winner's quote, is to have a confessional in the premiere episode that highlights the player as a person, as an individual, and relays that back to the game. A recent example would be Tommy from Island of the Idols. In the first episode, he told us about his job and how he relates it to the game. This one confessional tells me that Tommy is going to be a player to watch because it gives him an identity to the audience from the get-go.
As a 4th grade teacher, my job is to make sure everyone feels comfortable around me. In this game, I'm doing the same thing, and my strategy was to connect with people in one-on-one conversations and get to know who they truly are. And it's really working. Everyone has been coming up to me, and I think I did a great job of connecting with people one-on-one, and I'm building a lot of alliances.
Going into the season, we don't know anyone, but we can say that with this confessional, we do know a little bit about him and how it might factor into his path to the win. Another example would be Ben in Heroes, Healers, and Hustlers season 35, who, in the first scene of the season on the boat before they're marooning, gets a segment where he talks to Jeff about being a Marine.
Yes,
What's
sir.
your name?
Ben.
Does this ring true to you? What's your world about?
Well, I have a family. I have a wife and 2 kids. I was in the Marine Corps and served our country.
This singles out Ben amongst the rest of his tribe and his cast as a likely very important person to watch. Immediately, Ben skyrockets in my contenders list for potentially having the winner's edit of the season. Every season has focal characters that the story likes to follow, and the winner is almost always among them, so pay attention to who jumps out with these portrayals, especially in the premiere. Another important clue is when a player is given time in the episode, again, particularly in the premiere, but it can be in the first few episodes, to have their relationships with other players explained to us. We saw Wendell immediately connect with Dominic, Ben connected with Chrissy. We saw Tony reconnect with Sarah, as well as Sandra in Winners at War, harking upon their previous butting of heads from Game Changers. We saw Tommy connect with Lauren and Jack. We saw Mike Holloway connect with Dan. Jeremy connected with a handful of people, particularly Tasha and Savage, and then Spencer with the swap. You may notice in my True Contenders videos, I oftentimes hedge my bets by putting 2 players in a duo in my top 4 after the first few episodes. Here's why. Strong connections that the audience understands from very early on in the season are staples in a winning edit. Because when you think about it, lots of relationships are formed from the get-go on every single season, but yet we're only seeing a handful of them, let alone having confessionals from the players fleshing them out. Why is that? Because those are the ones that likely matter. In Survivor Worlds Apart, when Dan tells us that Mike is a walking ray of sunshine, the glue that holds the tribe together, within the first half hour of the season, my ears perk up. Not to mention, Mike had a scene where he ate a scorpion, threw up, and then the entire scene was framed in a comical, positive light for him. We learned a lot about Mike in that one scene, and let me tell you right now, that framing of him eating a scorpion told me he was the winner. And I spent the rest of the season analyzing why Mike was almost certainly the winner of that season, Blue Tribe strong, and the winner was most certainly on the blue mat. Which brings me to another key clue. Presentation. An all-encompassing takeaway, but how a player is framed and presented to the audience is pivotal. It's one thing to eat a scorpion, it's another to be framed positively for it. Because it very easily could have shown Mike in a negative light, one where he's an idiot for picking up a scorpion off the ground and scarfing it down like it was day 38 when it was only like, what, day 1, day 2?
Maybe not the best decision to eat a scorpion on the first day of Survivor, but I'm the type of person, if I see an opportunity in front of me, I'm gonna go grab it. I'm gonna run as fast as I can, clinch on as hard as I can, and ride that bull for as long as I can. I saw the scorpion, I seized the opportunity, and I paid the consequence. That's your boy.
I guarantee you some of his tribe mates gave confessionals about him being a moron for doing that, but we didn't see those. Very rarely in any season of Survivor is the winner framed in a manner in which we won't understand their perspective. If they do something that is highly questionable, if they give a take that doesn't add up, or is maybe flat out wrong, we, the audience, will either understand them right as they give the take or sometime soon after. For example, we had Jeremy in Survivor Cambodia. He said that there was no way Kimmy was flipping on his alliance.
My voting bloc is skeptical on Kimmy. I don't think Kimmy's trying to do anything.
Well, I've showed you time and time again. It's us 4, and that's what we've always said.
Listen, I believe you. I know Kimmy's kind of goofy and everything, but I really think she's with us.
But then later that episode, she did. And Jeremy was wrong. But at the time, we understand why Jeremy believes Kimmy wasn't flipping. And in fact, her flipping fueled his response at the final tribal council that played into his overall winning story. He was legitimately shocked.
I always said that you're with me. I had faith in you and said Kimmy is with me. So that's why I said, who wrote my name down? It can't be Kimmy. And it hurt my feelings because I was duped.
Meanwhile, you had Tony in Winners at War, who was building spy shacks during the tribe swap, and it was needlessly putting a target on him. If he's the winner, why is he being framed in a poor light strategically? Maybe he isn't the winner then. But go figure, a few episodes later, and we see Tony evolve the ineffective spy shack into an effective spy nest, correcting my original concern in his perspective winning edit. That being said, sometimes winners aren't framed so well. They come off looking rather poor, and we, the audience, lose a bit of respect for them going forward. You might get Ben from HHH, who is told to be very commanding from several tribe mates, a bit rude. We see him lose his cool with Joe, although Joe did tell us he was intentionally going to push Ben's buttons, so we understood his reaction. Most significantly, in my opinion, you get Adam from Millennials versus Gen X. I mentioned this a few videos ago, but his winning edit broke my analysis and got me to stop writing so much about it. At the merge of season 33 Millennials Gen X, Adam was framed in a very poor light. He was erratic, he overplayed his hand, and his own allies even questioned his value. And I took all of this to mean Adam wasn't the winner, because why would the producers want their eventual winner to look so poorly? I was pretty much out on Adam from that point forward, and I was wrong to be that way. Because if you look at the facts, Adam was in a tenuous spot. He was playing too hard and he received a bunch of votes at that tribal because of it. And when you realize that the eventual winner did do all of this, it makes sense for the producers to explain how it got to be this way. And go figure, Adam actually says all of this in his edit in this episode. He explains his plan to win over Taylor, who was a very unlikely ally. He explains that he's aware his plan has blown up in his face. He explains that he needs the pivot, and he even gets a chance to talk about whether he should play his idol tonight or not, because if he wastes the idol, he might look like a chump. But he didn't waste the idol, and he didn't get voted out. And so the editors were hinting to us, even though I didn't see it at the time, he's not out of the running just yet. Because for every mistake, Adam was given a chance to rebound in his portrayal and his framing to the audience. It wasn't perfect play, but we understood all of it. And that is incredibly key to the winning edit. To me, the most iconic example of framing or presentation of any winning edit will be the one and only Michelle Fitzgerald from Survivor Co. Wrong. This example is from episode 6, and Michelle is at the swap and she has still yet to go to a tribal council. Her tribe goes off to a reward challenge and she loses it. She is largely to blame for her tribe's loss at the challenge, and it's readily apparent to the audience it was her fault. And what happens next? Well, first as we leave the challenge, Michelle tells us that she screwed up, but hopefully she can turn things around.
I've screwed up the reward challenge, I failed our team, and it's nerve-wracking for me. But I just gotta go back to camp, keep fighting, and hopefully I can turn things around.
And then we go back to camp, and the entire scene is about Michelle, how it wasn't her best day, but she's not giving up.
Everything that's been up to this point, it feels like it's teetering, but I'm not one to give up. It does seem like I have to start over, so I'm just gonna try and use my social skills to build me back up.
Right away, just from these few confessionals, all doubt in my mind that anyone else was the winner was gone. Because the producers went out of their way to spin this negative into a positive to get us to understand where Michelle's head was at. We could have easily never heard from her again, and we would just assume that she kind of sucks at challenges and is another number for Nick or whoever. But that's probably a losing edit. And then we also get her snapping back at Nick in a confessional about how condescending he can be when he speaks to her. Just check that box on the list. Which brings me to one of the most important final clues for this video. I call this clue narrative precedence, or being the most important person in the story sequence for the scene. That scene with Michelle and Nick highlights exactly this. In this scene, we see that Nick is coaching Michelle about how to play Survivor better, how to be better at the game, what they should do as a duo going forward. Nick tells us he's going to take her under his wing so she says the right things and comes across the right way. And if the scene ended there, we may come to think Nick is the better player. He's more important than Michelle in the story. But then Michelle tells us she's gonna let Nick talk down to her so that he believes he's better than her, when in reality,
I don't need to be carried, bro.
from this one example in this one scene, from a narrative perspective, Michelle took the cake. And right away, I am told Nick is screwed. I mean, Nick was screwed after his edit in the premiere episode, but still. You apply narrative precedence to a scene, the order of what's being shown to us and why and what is being said, and you'll begin to easily suss out who goes above who in the power ranking. Because the winning edit, the winner's edit, does not care at all about reality. It cares only about the narrative, about the story. When the premiere episode of Redemption Island, a season with a very dominant winner who is shown way more than anyone else all season, that being Boston Rob, when the premiere episode of that season has Rob only speak in a confessional one time, Boston Rob, who is the poster boy for this season, he speaks once all episode, I become flabbergasted. Is Rob going to be the winner of this season after that? But guess what? All episode, everyone on Rob's tribe, they talk and they talk. They talk about their strategy, about their approach, about Rob. From Natalie to Matt to Ashley to Christina to Philip to Francesca, they all revolved around him, around Rob. And yet, he barely speaks. It's quizzical. And then at the very end of the episode, he goes up to vote and we see what he says. And he says this.
Man, it feels so good to play with you amateurs. You give away so much. You don't even know enough to keep your mouth shut. Thanks for the memories.
And it all makes sense. The narrative kept Rob, the poster boy of this season, the eventual winner with arguably the grandest coronation edit of all time. They kept him quiet in the premiere episode because the narrative was about how much everyone else isn't. And he, as a veteran player, rose above the noise. And then in episode 2, he just hits off to the races. It can be incredibly difficult to make sense of this little scene right here in the moment. It's why even so many people who do analyze the winner's edit season after season get it wrong sometimes. Not everything is clear right away, although sometimes it may seem like it is. Hindsight is 2020. I don't think there's any way I would have been able to predict that Chris Underwood was winning Edge of Extinction after like the first 3 weeks into the season when his winning journey had yet to even begin. But in hindsight, when you look back, it does kind of start to make sense. My wife predicted all season that Chris would return from the Edge at the end based on his portrayal while he was on the Edge. He was catching stingrays and feeding the tribe and getting epic helicopter shots while sitting on a rock in the middle of the ocean. Narratively, Chris was being shown the best, especially for someone who was voted out third and otherwise didn't seem too noteworthy of a third boot. Oh, go figure, he was the winner.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Dude, good job.
I like Chris today better than Chris yesterday.
I've got nothing but myself. It's really hard being out here. A lot of my fears started to come out. I've got a fear of failure, need for approval, like just trying to be perfect. This is perfectionist. I failed. Like, it got me voted out. This idea of playing a perfect game is completely shot. So, coming to terms with that, maybe that's a part of this journey too.
There are many other examples I didn't bring up for many other winners over the past 20 seasons, and really I didn't get into the thick of all of this because it would take a long time to break down scene by scene, from Nicaragua to winners at war. As you guys can tell, there is a lot that goes into finding these hidden clues that make up a winner's edit in Survivor. Ultimately, the winner's edit is the edit the winner receives, and that's pretty easy to define, but finding it is left up to a lot of interpretation. These are just patterns that I've picked up over the years. These are my hidden winner's edit clues in Survivor, and I hope, more than anything, that they don't ruin the show for you, because it's a bit like peering behind the curtain and realizing the Easter Bunny may not be real. Wait, what do you mean Aubrey stands no chance to win? Look at everything she's accomplished. How dare you? Regardless, my name is Peridiam, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, tunnel vision is a thing on your way out, and I will see you in the next one. Once I declare there is absolutely no way anyone other than Russell Hantz is winning Survivor Samoa.
So I would have to take somebody like Natalie with me because she's gonna ride my coattails the whole way. She's too stupid to do it by herself. She needs me. So I could stand up there and say, she followed my coattails this whole way. She rode me like a horse.
12 seconds later.
I definitely think people underestimate me, and I want them to think that, hey, it's really smart for them to take me to the end because they could beat me. You know, use that to my advantage. And if it comes down to me or him, I know I could beat Russell in the very end, because I would say a lot of other people in the tribe have really been rubbed the wrong way by him. So I'm just trying to not ruffle feathers, steer clear, build good relationships, which is what I'm good at.
This is great.
You got it made, I'm telling you.